All right, everybody. Welcome to VW Garage Shock Podcast. This is episode 10. We host and post these every other week, so you can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on your favorite streaming platforms. But today we're interviewing Buildwire and Daniel Kilbride. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
it.
us.
Hey, thanks a lot. Bill, I want to start first with you. Let's talk about the origin story of how you got into VWs, your first VW, things like that.
How long is the podcast? Because it's going to be a little bit.
Let's see.
My story actually goes back into the 80s. I'm in my mid-50s, let's say that. A buddy of mine in high school, so let's say about 1986, 87, bought a Volkswagen Beetle. I was a mini truck guy, so I never owned a Volkswagen up until that point. My first car was a mini truck, and this is back in the days when mini trucks were pink and orange and crazy stuff and lowriders. So he bought this Beetle. We thought he was kind of nuts, but then he didn't know much about mechanics, so he got me involved in doing mechanics and stuff like that. So I started helping him out. I didn't know anything about a Volkswagen Beetle. I didn't know really much about cars that much at all, other than what my father had taught me, just the basics. So his car was the guinea pig. So we just started working on it, putting Bondo on, we'd see cars in magazines and try to emulate that, and really kind of messed the car up, to be honest with you. It was a real crap job, basically. But during that process, we ended up getting invited. Somebody put a flyer on his actual windshield back before the internet. So he's like, "Hey man, there's this club that meets up. It's a fairly new club. It's actually Miami V-Dubs down in Miami." And I'm like, "All right, let's go." So it turned out that the meeting was only 3 blocks from my house. So we drive up there and meet a bunch of guys, and it was really, really cool. I'm like, wow, these guys are really cool. These cars are pretty crazy. There were some guys that had totally finished cars. There was cars under construction, kind of like what we were doing. So it was a real good camaraderie. Again, it's in the 80s. The cruising world was big. We didn't have any money, so we'd just go drive in circles, basically. Gas was 99 cents, I guess. And that's the first foray that I remember of really getting hooked into Volkswagens. I stayed in the mini truck world and kept my toe in the Volkswagen world, my toe in the mini truck world for a long time, probably into the 90s. I had both. And then around 1994-ish, I kind of started getting into them heavily. I bought my own car in about 95, and then just kind of gangbusters from then on, strictly Volkswagen, and have done so until today.
You're from South Florida originally, or is it?
I'm from Miami. Yeah, I'm a Miami native.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
So luckily there was a big scene down there. Even to this day, there's a big scene down there, and I just happened to be at the age that caught the beginning of it back then. So. Turned out to be a good time to, I guess, be in the Volkswagens back then. I was always fixing up cars, always building cars. My real good friends growing up were the same way and still come to the show today, which is really interesting. I'm surprised that we're still into it, and there's probably 10 or 12 of us that are still from that original day, and we still have that bond. They called me yesterday, giving me crap about the show, what's going on with the show, and we're coming up, and there's little surprises that a lot of people will build a car for the show, and I'll get sneak peeks and that kind of stuff about it. So it's kind of fun. From 95-ish to 90, we're just building cars and stuff in garages and making more friends. 97, we're like, we should put on our own event. Why doesn't Miami have a show? So we started a show called VolksBlast. Now, VolksBlast actually ended right at COVID. It's actually got a resurgence where it's firing back up. It ran from 1997. I was a part of it into 2003 and still was a part of it, but not as actually in the planning, just the day of stuff, and moved up here. So once I moved up, still building cars on my own, still doing my own thing here with Volkswagens. And then a guy approached me, this guy Joe, and he's like, "Hey man, let's do a show." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Yeah, let's do a show." And it ended up being a show called Winter Jam. So I kind of helped plan the actual shows because I had the experience from VolksBlast and doing that show. So I started doing Winter Jam with Joe. Joe's more of a kind of a salesy guy. He was good at getting sponsorships at that time. I kind of put the nuts and bolts of the show together, and we both worked on the venues and advertisement. That show ran from, I want to say 2007 to 2011. So it was about like a 4-year run, roughly. Um, but the show was huge. It was a pretty damn big show. Um, so we had that show going on, and then basically what happened was we kind of falling out. The show was a very pricey show to put on. There was a lot of capital we had to make to put the show on, and it was probably about a $40,000 cost
Wow.
associated to it. Yeah, so it's a lot.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah,
I went to
so
VolksBlast a couple years, or for a few years. Well, I think '07 to '09.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
3 years to VolksBlast, but that was a great show. I think Gus is maybe putting on now. I don't know if you're.
Gus is now doing it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Gus, the funny thing about Gus is a real good personal friend of mine. I've known him since he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And his father, Gus Sr., we just lost him this year, is a super
Oh,
great guy, super good friend of mine. He used to drive up, drop Gus off in my garage. He was 15 years old. Why he would drop him off with a 21-year-old guy, he's very trusting.
yeah.
But we would show him the ropes. And now Gus is he has his own shop in Miami. He's building his own cars. He does his own stuff. He's part of DRT, which is a big Porsche show down there. And
Nice.
he's taken over VolksBlast. And I got nothing but good things to say about him. He's a good kid.
Yeah,
He's
he
like
is.
20-something years old now.
He is very cool. I remember I camped at. He let us camp at his
Yeah.
in the yard at his house.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we had a bunch of people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 I've camped many nights in his front yard.
Yeah.
With Winter Jam, it was really hard financially to keep it going. So there's a lot of pressuring people for money, and I'm just not really that kind of a guy. The way the show was going was just more about money, and I'm more about cars. I'm more about having a good time. I'm more about putting
Yeah.
on something for the people. So we just bumped heads for that last final year and then parted ways. I was honestly thinking I'm going to sit it out. I'm not going to do a show. I'm going to go enjoy shows. I'm not going to try to put these things on.
Mhm.
And did so successfully for a year, which you guys went to Buses by the Bridge. But Ronnie, who ran Busterations back then, is a good friend of mine, and he was a sponsor from day one for Nodo. At that point, he's like, you need to do your own show. He was a sponsor of Winter Jam, and he's like, I'm not giving the money to Joe. He's like, so I want to sponsor a new show that you're going to run. And I'm like, I'm not running nothing, man. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
But Gerson, who is also a good friend of mine and actually lived in Miami, that I grew up with as well, called me up. I was at a Publix. I'll never forget it. And he's like, hey, man, he's like, what's going on with Winter Jam? And I said, well, I'm out. I've been out. I don't know if you knew or whatever. I kind of stayed quiet about the whole situation. He's like, bullshit. We're going to back you. I already talked to Ronnie. We already have the money. So you don't really have a choice. And I'm like, nah, I got a choice. I'm not doing the show, dude. I'm going to sit it out and relax. A great friend of mine, Bubba Corsi, he's been into buses, forever, like me. And he calls me up and he goes, dude, I heard you don't want to do the show. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's a lot of work. Running a show is a thankful business. It's really rough, man, sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, nah. And he's like, dude, I'll help you do it, man. We'll split it up 50-50. And I'm like, let me think about it. And I was on the way home from that Publix, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to do it, man. I'll do it. Whatever, fine. You guys, talk me into it. And I really do enjoy putting on the show. I like to put on the show. I've thought about it. Like, what do I like about it? Of course, I like Volkswagens. I mean, that's easy. But I like the fact that people enjoy it. And if I was going to do a show, which now I am, the way I've always wanted to do it, which is basically free, and which is the reason why it's called Nodo. And the name, it's kind of a funny name. It sounds really weird. People hear it and they're like, it's not a typical Volkswagen show name. They're always like Bug Jam, Bug Fest, or something like that. But since I split up with the partner that I had Winter Jam with, like as a joke, we called it the No-Joe Show. And that turned into, since it was free, it turned into the No-Do Show. And the name just kind of stuck. It's not like we had a committee and we picked it. It just stuck and it made sense. And it's kind of weird enough that when people hear it, I think that it sticks in their mind. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, what is that show? And it just works for it because it's a free event. The original slogan of the show was, for the people, by the people. For the enthusiasts, by the enthusiasts. It's kind of the idea behind it. In fact, the first graphic is a dollar bill, and it's a $0 bill. That was like our first graphic for the
Yeah.
first year, because we really didn't have any kind of budget for any kind of artist or to do the shirts. By the
Yeah.
way, nice shirts. I did notice.
Yeah. By the way,
And I got
shirts
a
don't.
Bully Brigade shirt on.
What? Well, the nice thing about the shirts, you could get them in green or black.
And
That's true.
we saw some other colors too.
Yeah.
For those who don't know
Yeah.
what Nodo is, what is Nodo? So, like you said,
So
Nodo is a free show, but it's a
it's
whole
a free
weekend. What
show.
is it?
Yeah, correct.
Well, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Correct. The way that I talk to people that have never been before, and the closest thing it would be to is really like Bike Week or even like Jeep Beach, except we're a 3-day weekend. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's basically a Volkswagen Fest in every way you could think of. There's multiple events going on, multiple venues. If you want to just go hang out at car shows, you could do that. And this year we have actually a big event Saturday, and we have the big event on Sunday. If you're a bus guy, you got bus shows. If you want to go cruise, there's always cruises. There's a navigational rally. There's parties at night at restaurants like that. There's an open house at Charlie's shop on Friday.
Yep.
So it's basically 3 days of everything Volkswagen that you can imagine, culminating at a big show on Sunday that's going to have swap and all the cars there. The way the Sunday show has gotten, it's just gotten so big as far as cars. I mean, our first year we started out, we had like maybe 100 cars. Last year, the city goes around and does a count because they monitor all that stuff and they monitor people. And they're talking it's about 600 cars. So it's a hefty amount of cars now that are coming to the show.
Yeah. So how long has the show been going on? Like, what's like your vision? What's the evolution of Nodo show?
Well, this has been a conversation this year more than ever. The show started in 2011. That was the first year of the show. It was 100 cars and $700. It was really easy to do. Plus insurance or stuff, T-shirts or whatever. But every year it grows. Every year the city tells me we're gonna have to figure something out for next year.
Yeah.
It's every year. This is the 14th year doing it, and
Yeah,
it grows and grows. It grows.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten to be the size that, like, my girlfriend Jamie, thank you Jamie, she's helped out a lot with organizing the show. Of course, Bubba Corsi, my good friend, he's been doing it with me for years. A lot of people don't know we pay for the show up front. It's in the range of $15,000 now just to front for the show, and we make our money back with T-shirt sales. It's not a for-profit business. It's strictly to recoup the money, and then if we have leftover, we put it towards next year. And with the money, we've been able to grow things. We have our own teeter-totter now, which you might have seen videos of or seen in person. We've been able to buy a PA system and tents and ramps and all the things that we need to put the show on. But as the show grows and keeps growing, so does the cost. So at some point, we're like, all right, it's a free show. And that's where I'm getting to where I was talking about come up this year, where the cost has jumped by $3,000 over last year. So it's like, well, where's the money going to come from? And at what point does it not pay for itself? So that's kind of what we struggle with putting on the event, But we're super thrilled. People love it. It's like, it's there's a little bit of a pressure that you got to put it on, which we like doing, but how the hell are we going to pay for 2026?
Right. No, I mean, we greatly appreciate all the work you do. I mean, the three of us put on a couple shows downtown New Ricci, and they were all car shows, but it was just like a cruising type, and we only had like 100 something people, and that was tough to organize that.
Yeah, and the other thing, going back to what you were saying, like Bubba and Jamie and all them helping you out in this show, and Craig talking about the show that we did here in New Ricci, a lot of volunteers. You get a lot of people. I mean, I volunteered one year just parking cars.
We can't do it without people. Yeah. Yeah,
and it's great. Some of the people that step up, like your son driving around in the golf cart and helping out. And you got Gary Miller that's helping parking cars.
Gary, Jeff,
Yeah, I mean, the names just keep going. You got Abel DJing and everything. It's such a great community that all these people help out.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, and I was going to get into that because I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm not going anywhere. But it's getting to the point where like my son is taking over more. Thank God Jamie's been helping me. My daughter, a lot of people don't see, but at the end of the show, she helps with cleanup. We go around after everyone's gone. We scour the place for garbage, and Volkswagen people are great. We don't have garbage really or stuff, any kind of problems like that, thankfully.
Good.
But we
That's
have to
good.
check it, so they do that. And yeah, you're right, Dan. It wouldn't run without volunteers. That's for damn sure,
Yeah.
So
Speaking of
definitely
Dan,
appreciate
yeah, Dan, what's your story, your origin? How did you get in Volkswagens? When did you get in Volkswagens?
Back when I was like 14, we found a VW, my dad and I, and the plan was to kind of fix this Super Beetle up that we had. And he worked nights, so while he was working nights, my mom would be sleeping. I would take that car out and just drive it around town legally, 14 years old.
Yeah.
But we worked on it a little bit, got rid of it. I turned 16. We went and bought a bus, 74 bus down in Palm Harbor.
Okay.
Bought that bus and I drove that to high school. Back then I worked at a Mexican restaurant and also I worked at Toys R Us. And I would drive that bus back and forth to work, back and forth to school.
Yeah.
Real fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then being on this side, of the coast, Bill's over on the other coast, Florida. We're over here on the best coast. I mean, West Coast.
The right coast. I'm on the right coast.
Wow. Just want to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suncoast VW,
was over here.
Yeah. And just like that, he's out now.
Suncoast VW was over here, and going down to Tony's shop, down in Tarpon was fun as a kid. It was like a candy store, man.
That was fun.
You could trick out your VW with, fluorescent wires, and clear distributor caps, and kind of what you were talking back, in the 90s.
The old stuff. Yeah.
All that cool stuff, was going on. And then, I just got out of it for a while, grew up, bought a Beetle, and now I've had a few buses, and found out about Bill's show back in 2014. Yeah. When I first came to that show.
Yeah.
And I've been coming every year. I look forward to this weekend every year for No Dough. For one, it's a great getaway. I get over there and I'm surrounded by VWs. Yeah. I'm surrounded by people that I don't normally see other than social media.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, one of the things Bill will touch on is the pizza place. That's part of it. Just turns into its own show.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat in that parking lot for 16 hours. 16 hours, I never moved.
That's a hell of a show.
Yeah, I mean, it was great talking to so many people.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, for sure.
Dude, it's the best, man. I tell people, people that are not car people, they're like, oh, what are you doing next week? And I'm like, oh, I'm going over to, Port Orange, Daytona for, this thing called No Dough. And they're like, No Dough?
Yeah.
What's that? You were talking about the name's like what sticks.
Yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, so I got to explain it. And then when I do, if you're into cars in general, you don't need to be into VWs. If you like the community, people, and music and talking, go to this show.
Yeah, like you said. And then going back to that, so Daniel introduced us to Nodo and to you, Bill. And like I said, it's just that show. Once we first went, our first year we went to the show was 2016. We were just amazed, so we loved the beach show. Too, we first started going to that, and we parked on the beach, had the cars all out there, and that was a party. We loved going there. And there's a bus show. Oh, there's a bay window bus show. Oh, there's a split bus show. Oh, there's a show at the pizza place. Wait a minute, there's a show at the Volkswagen shop, and it's another show here. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And you had so much going on, but enough for everybody. Everyone could pick what they want to do, and
that's part of it. A lot of people ask me well, how are you supposed to be able to do everything that weekend? And the point is, you don't have to do everything that weekend. You can pick and choose what you want to do. If you want to wake up late, and then just show up to an event. If you want to go cruise the beach, go cruise the beach. It's right. The whole idea is not that you have to hit every point of the show throughout the whole weekend. Cater it to what you want to do. If you want to do the nav rally with the family, do the nav rally. If you want to go hit up lunch in the middle of the nav rally, do it. You know what I mean? Go to the beach, go to the bus show, go to the split bus show, Friday night, have dinner at the restaurant, you know what I mean? Or Saturday night, hang out at Giuseppe's. And when you want to go back to your campsite, go back to your campsite. It's just you could pretty much do whatever you want, but there's always going to be something to do.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea behind the weekend. But if you try to do everything, you're gonna burn out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it incorporates there's something for everybody. You know, and whatever you want to do, you do it, and that's what's great about it. And a lot of people, what's neat too is you get to camp right nearby everything.
Yeah.
You could just come and go as you please. If you want to go do something, it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say about it is we're trying to always keep it different. So, every year or two I'll add a few things. I'll take some things out. We'll look at kind of what's successful. And a big thing I want to bring up too, not only do we have volunteers for the day of the show, but we have volunteers that run actual shows as well. We have Eric Loffer, he does the Bay Window Rally. We have Robert Kennedy, does Bully Brigade. We have Lonnie, who's now doing, the dubs by the dubs on the bay. Charlie opens his shop up, So those people that step up and run their own show within the show weekend are a big deal too. Like I was just thinking about it. Eric's been doing it for 14 years, man. He's been here since day one. But, the Bay Window Rally is the biggest Bay Window bus show there is. I mean, I can't think of another show that's specifically only Bay Window. Anywhere really. So I mean, it's really the mecca for bay windows. I mean, last year you had like 50 bay windows or something like that. So it's starting to get steam. So we always try to change it up. We introduced the teeter totter a few years ago. We started with the auto limbo, which has been a big deal. Just fun things, family friendly, budget friendly. So that's kind of what we're about, having fun and having it on the cheap,
Like you said, it's family friendly, and you don't worry about bringing your family to the show. Like you can bring the family anywhere, even the campground. Everyone's cool,
For the most part.
Yeah,
we've had a few years, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But, that guy right there.
But even in the campground at night, just camping out, it's almost like a show there. Everyone's just going to different camp spots and chilling. Everyone's grilling. They have the concert in the campground too, which is really cool.
That's brand new, and that is actually that's Nova Campground thanking us basically for booking up the campground. They put on SoundForge, and I caught like 2 songs last year, and then they were done. But everyone loved it. I mean, if you're going back to your campsite and you want to hear some stuff, it's a good. I think they're like 90 cover band, and what I heard, they were pretty damn good.
Yeah, they were great, man. They were. They were. I sat there and listened to a lot of songs. It was super awesome.
And they were like basically not far. I mean, we could see them from our our campsite because we were like basically right up front. But that was the first. We took Alfonso, our 71 Westie, to that Bay Window show. We had a great time. Tomorrow we're actually flying out to Phoenix to drive the bus from Phoenix to Silverado, California. But
all right. So what's your Volkswagen story, Craig? Come on, let's go.
Well, I got in the scene in '98, so I was 14 when I got in the scene. I actually bought my Beetle when I was 14. I got into them when I was 12. My dad had a couple of them he was talking about when he was a kid. He had a 67 Beetle and a 773 Super. I saw a picture of him somewhere in a Polaroid when he was in Boston. And I was looking at him like, man, I want one of these. And it's been an addiction ever since. And so we were looking all kinds. We looked at some Beetles, a 63, a 67. I was going to get the 74 Super up the street from me. I caught on fire. So the engine was toast, but it was semi-automatic. And it was a teacher of mine, and she was going to sell it to me for $200. And I was going to get it, but she wound up, I don't know what happened, made an agreement. Maybe I was 14 years old, but she sold it to somebody else. But anyway, we wound up finding my Beetle. And I've had that. I've had a 61 bus that I drove for a while, Mingo bus. And actually I took that to VolksBlast.
Nice
I think I brought that to VolksBlast, I believe. Now that's in the UK. But I've just, like Daniel said, going to Suncoast Bug. That was really cool, because the little kid going there, and then AJ Automotive. Yeah, I remember going there. Alan Genie, they had a cool setup in there, and I started dealing with a mechanic. He's VW and
Fisher Buggies.
Once you get into it, you've been to a couple good Volkswagen shows, and you've had a couple good experiences.
Yeah.
It's like addicting, and then next thing you know, you're full in it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you
man.
start buying multiple cars, and you're like,
Yep.
wow, I'm fixing
It-
stuff all the time.
yeah, it was 97 Bug Jam was my first Bug Jam, and I've been every year since I think I missed
Wow, it's a long time ago.
2007.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I missed 1 year so far, but I'm always addicted to that show too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
local. Always making a point to go to Bug Jam and Noto Weekend. You really put a heck of a show on, man. That's
So
I
one
just
thing I just thought about now, where you're talking about going to shows like way back in the day, is kind of like the future, and that's something I think about a lot. My son is 24 now. He's got his own Volkswagen he's building. He's actually got two. He's got a Vanagon. He's got a 67 that he's building as like a super lowrider.
nice.
Um, yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. But um, it's a little harder for kids these days, I think, to get into the hobby, because when I was young, things were cheap. These
Yep.
cars were cheap, and you could buy one under a tree for $50, $500. I traded a lawnmower for one time.
About the same
All kind
horsepower.
Yeah, about as fast
yeah,
too.
or less, or less. Um, but nowadays, you buy I mean, forget about a split bus or anything rare, but even a 70s Beetle, you're looking at 1,500 to 2,000 on the low end for something fixable. And then the cost of it has gone up a bit. So
Yeah,
something I've been doing at Nodo the last few years is gift certificate giveaways, and we try to find either young kids that are building a car, or people that maybe are down on their luck or had a rough year, and then try to give them gift certificates, or sometimes shops like Charles Overton. 1 year kicked in. I know Ocala V-Dubs, when they were around, would kick in like $500. And last year we gave away $1,500 to a lady who crashed her bus the week before the show and
Oh
really
wow,
messed it up.
well, that's
So
great.
we try to give back to younger kids or people in need in a Volkswagen kind of way, help them maybe push their project to the next level or inspire them. Um, and that's kind of what the show's about. Is, like I said, it's for the people, but also helping out people that might need to go to the show and can't afford to go to a show that is expensive, because some shows are pretty pricey to get into.
Yeah,
But all you need is gas money to get to Nodo. You know what I mean?
you're right.
And come with your
That's true.
friends and hang out. And camping's fairly cheap, but you can just show up the day of too, of course. But I would like to kind of, in the future of the shows, maybe start a thing where people will donate, like maybe some shops will donate some parts, and then or gift certificates, and we can help out some of these people that do need help. Young
Right,
kids with projects that you know trying to come up with $500 to fix something, or $1,000 to get an exhaust, or whatever it is, because it's pricey
right.
these days.
Yeah, it's
So
funny. Speaking of that, like, so Daniel got the truck, or
C10.
C10. I'm sorry, I'm a Ford guy.
trader.
He got a 66 C10. But we were just talking about like engines, like an
Yeah.
engine for Volkswagen stock. I mean, $3,800 or
Oh
higher.
yeah.
We're talking about
Yeah.
a crate engine, 350.
Yeah,
How much was that?
it's like $2,000. If
2 grand.
that, if
Oh.
that.
Yeah, 2 grand.
Hey, dollar per horsepower, they're the worst investment, but the most fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You get
But, I
more
mean-
miles per miles in a Volkswagen.
Well, and you guys were talking about a little bit ago. You buy a Volkswagen and then you just keep buying more Volkswagens.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I want to own multiple Volkswagens, but I feel
Yeah.
like I'm cheating on mine if I get another Volkswagen. So that's why I went with a C10. I was like, well, screw
Yeah,
it.
and I'm going to say
I guess
one
I'm a
thing,
whore.
and you're going to remember I said this. You'll be back. You'll be back.
Yeah.
Most of our guys come back eventually.
Yeah.
I've done it myself.
Yeah.
It's
Daniel will
fun.
never get rid of the panel.
No.
We'll
No,
keep that
I know that.
forever. He might be buried in that thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's got an interesting story behind it. It's got
It
a really
does.
cool, interesting story with the pictures of it in the junkyard, and then
Yeah.
its past life and all that stuff. It definitely tells the story of that bus.
Yeah. Now you've had your panel for a long time too.
Camper.
It's an 11 window tin top Westie.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
it's,
right. Yes, right. Tin top.
Yeah, so it's not a
It's
pop
tin
top. And yeah, I mean, so I used to always buy and sell Volkswagens, like when I was young. Of course, all
Yeah.
through my 20s, I would, flip them and work on them, and actually made a lot of side money doing that kind of stuff. And then, of course, deals find you because you'll work on a car, and then 2 years later, the guy's like, "Hey, man, I got to get rid of this thing. Like, what do you give me?" And I'm like, "I'll give you $1,500 and sell it for $2,000, that kind of stuff." But in 2000 is when my son was born, and I had a nice 62 ragtop Beetle with a big motor in it, and not the best family car, you know. I had a regular car, of course, but I started looking for a Volkswagen that I could include my son in, maybe something that we can camp in. So I started actively looking for a bus, and I started actually looking for a later 60s Westie split window bus, so 67, 66, 65, specifically a Westie SO42, and went to VolksBlast in '03 and had my bug for sale, and a guy calls me out of the blue and it's like, "Hey man, I saw your Beetle for sale, and I'm wondering, I don't have cash, but would you trade it for a 67 Westie?" And I'm like, "All right, who is this? Like, who's playing a joke on me?" You know what I mean? Because I'm literally looking for that. So the guy's like, "No, I'm like 4 cars down from your car. I'm in the for sale section also. If you want to trade, I'll even trade you." And I'm like, "Let me go look." So I get over there as quick as I can, and sure enough, man, it's exactly what I want. It's a 67 Westie. It's kind of rough, but you know, my car's not perfect, but value-wise, it was well worth the trade.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'll trade you, no problem." I didn't even drive the bus. I didn't do I didn't want anything to like change his mind.
Yeah.
So he's like, "All right, that's on a Sunday." He's like, "Let's meet tomorrow at a tagging see." So we drive. I meet him at a tagging see, and I'm waiting in the line, like it had like almost like a amusement park ride line to get to the thing where you transfer the tag. And after we transfer titles and everything's stamped and done, I said, "Hey man, why do you want to trade a bug for a bus?" And he goes, "Man, my girlfriend caught me in this bus with another girl at the beach, and she says
Man.
I gotta get rid of it, or she's gone, and I love her too much." And I was like, "All right, man." So I left, and I was with my buddy. He was like, "Oh, I can't believe that you just traded for that." And it was the greatest trade deal. And I was in '03 and have had the bus ever since, but
Nice.
it's been on countless road trips. I've been on a lot of cross-country trips with it. I trailered it out to Arizona because I didn't have time to drive it, but had it out at Busted by the Bridge a year ago. Had a great time in it, and all through the years, my daughter came along in '05. We camped in it. We've camped in it a million times. It's called Liz. That's the name of the bus because it was scratched on a window in the glass when I was restoring it. I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna call it Liz."
Wow.
But it's just been a great bus. It's got good vibes. I have to knock on wood, but it doesn't break down very often. You know, I've gone through it a couple times. It's been restored about 12 years, so it's starting to show some age again. But it's just a great bus. I'll never get rid of it. It's the one thing that's gonna go to my kids someday.
Good.
But
Cool.
I
That's
got
awesome.
that. I got a '59 ragtop. That's pretty cool. It's not finished yet. It's like 99.9% done. And
Nice.
just bought a '59 Gia. That's I'm gonna start building. And we got a few other projects too.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
59 gig came from over here.
Yeah.
it
From
did.
the, from the best side.
Yeah.
Right, to the right coast. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I had another '59 Gia, which is really interesting. I sold to my buddy Tim, who's an amazing car builder. So the original lowlight that I bought to build, a friend of mine has bought from me, and that car is going to get full tilt, like done beautifully. It might be a few years, but he's such an amazing builder. I'm excited to see what that. The one I got from Alan is just going to be a street car, but just for fun.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's already threatening that she's going to try to take it over. So we'll see what happens. We'll see
Now
what
that
happens.
has a Subaru drivetrain or Subaru engine? Is that?
It actually has a Corvair engine in it,
Corvair.
but I'm going to
Corvair.
go back to Volkswagen. I'm going back to Volkswagen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice car. It's a very nice car. I'm excited to get it. I've always wanted a lowlight. It's the one Volkswagen I've kind of never had. You know, I've had Gias, but I've always wanted a lowlight. So I started looking last year, and one did come up. I bought it, and then this one came up. It's just a lot better shape, so I ended up swapping cars basically. So
Yeah. That's
we'll see.
awesome.
Yeah.
How long do you think that project's going to take? The low light. Giving yourself a time
You
limit,
know,
or?
no, probably less than a year because it's mostly a done car.
Yeah.
Cool.
My 59 ragtop, because my kids think I'm a perfectionist. It took me about 4 years to build, but that's like on
Yeah.
weekends, and lately I've been pretty damn busy, so that's why it's 99.9% done. I just got to put the motor in it, really. That's it. Start it. So
Yeah.
after
Speak.
Nodo, that's when I'm starting back.
So we'll see you at
Nice.
Nodo next year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
100.
Speaking of purchases and everything like that, what's your
Yeah.
what would you say your most wildest swap meet find would be? What's probably
Oh
the best thing
man.
or craziest thing you found at a swap
All
meet?
right. I got a good story.
All
This
right.
is Bug Jam. Let's say it was Bug Jam 2006 or seven.
Okay.
I, showed up with maybe a few $100, whatever I could scrape up to go to the swap. Got there fairly early, and you might remember this, but back in the day, people would show up to the swap at like 6 a.m. Like me and my friends would have to be there early
Yeah.
to kind of get the deals. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I show up like, but back then I was trying to find deals, always trying to get that one thing. I showed up, this old guy showed up maybe at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning with a van and like a trailer, and he started like just uncovering things, and everything that he had was from like the 60s or like the early 70s, all of it. And
Huh.
he was pulling out, I don't know if you guys know what Dino Dinosaur is, but it's like a
Yeah.
Dino pistons. Their performance
Yep.
pistons before they were, this is like the early years of Volkswagen performance. So he
It's
had
like
like 6 sets of Dino pistons and IDA carbs, and he was still pricing things from like the 60s or the 70s.
oh,
And I was like, and I said, what do you want for these Dino cylinders? And he's like, oh, I'll take $50 a set. And he had 4 sets left. And I basically sat on the 4 sets so nobody else would grab them. And there was people just going over this guy's stuff. And so I gave him the money, and I grabbed a couple other rare things, whatever. And I took the pistons and I put them into my bus and hid them there, and then pulled out one set of pistons and walked over to Chad McGee. You guys know Chad? I
Yeah,
go,
oh yeah.
Chad, that's what I got. He's like, dude, those are super rare. I go, I'll sell you the set of pistons, man, for like 250 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, man, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. He forks out the 250, gives me the money. And I go back and I'm like, all right, I still got 3 sets. I come
Yeah.
back, I'm like, hey, Chad, I got another set, He's like, where'd you get them from? There's an old man down there, and he's got all kind of old stuff. But I sold those things off slowly. I think he might have bought 2 sets, and I might have done some horse trading for like a roof rack or something like that. Um, but yeah, that was like an instant score. Paid 100, $200, and I think I might have at the show made $1,000 off of the $200, which was a nice deal. Kept 1 set for myself, and I
Yeah.
still have the set. But that one was a great deal. And another one was not that long ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I bought a Volkswagen thing at. You guys knew when Sunray Bug was over by the show in Pasco, that
yeah.
big
Yep.
giant
Yeah.
junkyard. Well, when Corky sold all his stuff, um, I didn't go to that initial sale, but I was able to go to it after they moved all like the kind of the primo cars to like an area, and then they had to get stuff out of there. So I was able to go there and look at some parts, and they had a Volkswagen thing for sale on real early alloys, 15-inch deep six Fuchs wheels, and those wheels are worth really good money.
Yeah.
And they're original. And the car was $3,000. I'm like, the wheels alone are like 4 grand on this thing. So sure enough, I bought the car, immediately sold the wheels, made like $500 in the plus after the paying for. I think I made like 3,500 on the wheels, so I was in the plus for like 500, and then I sold the car. So I
Nice.
basically like doubled my money in like
That's
two
awesome.
weeks. It's just really knowing what's out there and I'm no pro. I don't consider myself a pro, but sometimes you see stuff and you're like, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But that
It's
was my most recent find. But I will say that the finds are harder to come
yeah.
by nowadays. You got to hunt harder.
It's
The
true.
internet has kind of destroyed a little bit of the fun. It used to be like when you saw something, it was like really rare. Now it's like I could go online and just buy it. You know, I might pay
Right.
more, but
Right.
still. But that's also nice too, because if you want something, you can get it.
Yeah.
So
Right. You don't have to
yeah,
search. What do you
yeah.
think, Dan? Did you have like a special like swap meet, whether Volkswagen part or just cool memorabilia or
I guess the one I always look for the memorabilia stuff.
yeah.
It might not be Volkswagen related, but it
Yeah.
kind of it goes into the Volkswagen world, like coolers, obviously, water jugs, like Coleman stuff,
Hmm.
lanterns.
Yeah.
I'm big on the lanterns.
You are
So
big, yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. And, hopefully, speaking of lanterns, hopefully, maybe we can one day, 1 year, incorporate a lantern walk, here in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And, seeing that at, buses by the bridge,
Yeah.
we,
It's definitely cool, man. Super cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to do that, like around a campground or something. That would be,
I just don't know if we have that view that they have out there. You know what I
I
mean?
don't think so.
That's a tough to duplicate that view, but
We'll have to get somebody to put a canvas up or something. We can pretend.
maybe we could
Yeah.
put cardboard cutouts of mountains around the
There
tree.
you go.
That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
But that's some of the stuff that I bought. An item that I can't really talk about because it's a family fun show is a nutcracker that I bought.
Oh, I remember that.
That is hanging up on my wall over here. So
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to send you a picture at
It's-
a later
send me a
time.
picture.
It's very colorful.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
but I bought that at Bug Jam 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of things on the peripheral of Volkswagens, like, and that is some of the cool thing. Of course, you got your Volkswagen stuff at the swap, but then you have, like, I bought some awesome vintage toolboxes, vintage tools. Half the time nowadays, I come back with some Volkswagen stuff and a whole bunch of other crap, signs
Yeah.
and stuff that I had no idea that I was going to get there.
Yeah.
So that's the fun of it is some of that. And, like, at work, people ask me, like, why are you into Volkswagens? And they're asking me, like, oh, you spent all weekend in your garage, like, I don't get it. That doesn't seem
Right.
relaxing. And I
Yeah.
tell people it's kind of like treasure hunting a little bit, because you got to look for all the parts to build this car. So you're going to swap meets and looking for parts. And when you find that part, you're like, I got that
The
part.
missing piece. Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's like model building, because you got all these parts and pieces. It's like a giant model. But then in the end, you get to build it. You get to drive it, and you get to take it places and talk about it. To me, and I bought builds from other people, and it's totally fine. But to me, the biggest satisfaction I get is from a car that I built myself, that I
Right.
restored myself. And I've been
Right.
lucky over the years. I built some nice cars, and I used to try to do a car every 2 years, but I can't keep that pace anymore with work and kids. I had cars and ended up in magazines, which was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Going through that whole process, and then one day just being like, well, I'll sell it, and then to start the next project. But it's just a lot of fun, and it's easy for people to talk me into helping them with their cars. So it's sometimes I'm working on other people's cars. I'm like, I should be working on my own car
Yeah.
right now, but I'm over here at someone's house.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun projects over the years with, like, my friend Bubba and other guys, local Dave and Eric, just building Volkswagens here locally, and I'm in DeLand, Florida, on the
Yeah.
right coast. But yeah. So, but I'm still in it. I'm still involved, and
Yeah.
I think about it. It's been like 30 something years. It's been a hell of a ride. I have some great friends that come to the show. Caesar, Alex, Ramsey, guys that I knew back in the day that are still into Volkswagens and still building cars and still showing up to the show with a new ride that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And they're working today on stuff, that I know that nobody knows about for the show. And they're building some surprises to bring to the show for people to laugh at. Like,
Nice.
do you remember the 6-door thing? Did you ever see the
Oh.
6-door thing?
Yeah.
That was built in, like, just a few weeks,
wow,
before
was
the
that-
show.
Was that
was 2 years
Chad?
ago.
no,
No, it's
Chad
Caesar.
was not a 6-door.
his wasn't 6?
No,
No, Chad
Okay.
had the Grey Poupon, the
Grey Poupon,
limousine.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a yellow one and there's an orange one, right?
The
I'm trying to
6-door
think.
thing, there's an orange one.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and if I remember right, he did go on a teeter totter last year at Giuseppe's.
He did go on a teeter totter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thought so.
Yeah.
That's
I remember
wild.
seeing that.
So,
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That's
yeah,
what.
it's fun to see that a lot of the guys are in it, not just from where I'm at, but just in general, just guys that have been around forever, just building cars and showing up to the show and supporting. And another thing too is this kind of the sneak thing for me was the camaraderie with some of the other guys that put on shows. Robbie, he's doing the VW Getaway. He's doing his damnedest to make a good event over there. Mike Shores, Brian Batzel in St. Augustine. You guys just trying to make good events for Florida. You know what I mean? Trying to make it happen. I always try as a show promoter myself to help them out. Hey, do you guys need anything? You guys need help? Help Jason Davis with the show in Sanford.
Yeah.
Judge, he needs help. So if I can volunteer and help with some of my hookups for insurance and things like that, I'm willing to help these guys for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. That's one good thing. You mentioning that there's so many people throughout the state of Florida that are doing some awesome stuff. Like these little pop-up shows.
The buses over the bridge. The Skyway show now is back.
Yeah, Skyway's back. The people are holding, little get-togethers on the weekends and during the weeks now. Evolution V Dubs, is
Lonnie,
picking back up, and
local
Volks, obviously a lot of stuff going on there. But it's been
those guys.
Been a pleasure. What's that?
I said, those guys, yeah.
You know how those guys.
Have you heard those people before?
I don't know if you've heard of them,
yeah,
but I've heard of them once or twice.
Yep.
Oh, going back to my swap meet find.
Oh yeah.
So this goes back to VolksBlast 2008, I think.
Okay.
So it was Sunday, last day of the show.
Yep.
This guy had parts all over. I think it was right in front of the mall. Is that what I think the show was?
I know
right?
what you're going to
Yeah, we used to get in trouble every year for that, by the way. We tell them, no, there's no parts, no vendors, and then
no parts. They were all over the road. And this guy's like, $2 any part, $2 any part. So I'm scrolling through there, and I see some pop-outs for a Beetle. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what is it, $2 for these or the pair? What is it? He's like, it's $2 each. I paid $4 for pop-out windows for my Beetle. I was like, holy crap. That's my best find. That is cheap. That's my best. That price ain't anymore.
No.
But
no,
that's,
not at all.
That was my good swap meet find.
VolksBlast, I think Gus is going to do a real good job with that. And I think that we do need a show, a primarily air-cooled show. Of course, all Volkswagens are welcome to my show and to most other shows that I know of. But VolksBlast was it filled a hole in South Florida. In South Florida, it's very hard for people to, for some reason they don't, but it's hard for people to travel to, and a lot of people don't travel out of because hotels in Miami are expensive for people to stay. So VolksBlast, the complaint there was always, oh my God, it's $200 a night to stay in Miami at a hotel. But the locals down there need an event, so I'm so glad that he's kind of heading it up and starting it back up because I think it fills a real good need down there for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting to see all these different events. Social media, obviously, you look at all these websites or all these pages that you belong to, and it's so exciting to see all that going on.
Yeah.
It's almost too many events, though. Like sometimes I can't go to that. I can't go.
Right. There's stuff I want to go to. There's stuff. I mean, the other show that's happening in Pensacola
looks like a great event.
Right. That's coming up. And me personally, and I know Craig talk about this a little bit too, and yourself. Even some of these shows that you can get to out of state just to see something different and support that community. Some of that's been great too, but like Florida, there's so much going on lately.
Yeah.
In the VW world, it's awesome.
Some of the inspiration that I got to do really for Winter Jam and then for Nodo was based on the Classic Weekend out in California. That really was big in the 90s and into the 2000s. I've heard they're bringing it back, but my first kind of foray going out there with my buddies, maybe mid-90s, was like, oh my God, they got like a 3-day event. What do you mean they got to hang out at Nick's Burgers at night? And then they got open house at a shop. Like that was like
Exactly.
we had nothing.
Yeah.
We had nothing. So I always kept that in my head. And then when I was able to do shows here, not that we have a huge shop scene because we don't have a lot of shops that only cater to Volkswagens, but it was creating some of that atmosphere.
Sure.
Is where it's a multiple day thing, and it's you travel from place to place, and you go in cruises or whatever. That was kind of the real seed was those events that I went to in the '90s out there, and trying to
Totally.
capture that vibe.
Sure. I would agree
Yeah,
with that. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and
You know, and
I think it feels different to people that go to Nodo and then go to other Volkswagen shows. And other Volkswagen shows are great. They all feel their own way. But I try to keep the vibe of ours fun, light, of course, cost effective and stuff like that. So where people are just relaxed.
Totally.
And that's a difficult thing to do as far as the costing. I mean, that's in today's economy. I mean, it's hard to put something like that. I can only imagine that, and how you can do that is just amazing. And the sponsors you reach out to, and just people that help and help you with that. I mean, that's just, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
A show that big of all the things going on, I don't know how you do it. And I
can't do without sponsors and volunteers, that's for sure. And Dan, can I count you in this year for volunteering?
Oh,
who me?
Yeah.
He's like, wait,
what? Yeah, you're breaking up.
We're losing connection.
I think the reception on that coast is getting a little weird. We'll do it. I got a bad foot. Do you got a wheelchair?
I'll get you a wheelchair.
A bum leg.
Yeah.
It'll be Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan, you had a fun memory at the Nodo. Was it something with a pool maybe?
Oh, yeah. So, the thing now, is like hanging out at the pool and eating pizza, so at Nodo, it's like we gotta build that up a little bit.
Pools and pizza.
A pizza walk right to the pool.
Oh,
hey,
there you go.
I'm totally good with that.
A pizza swim. There you go.
Oh,
the midnight pizza swim.
Yes, we need to set a time, put that on Saturday night, and we all just go over there in the pool and eat pizza.
There you
I
go.
go to bed at like 9 o'clock.
I'm gonna put Jeff, Bodine, and Colby in charge of that.
There you go.
Jeff, that'll be great. That'll be a great scene. What do you look forward to Nodo this year, Daniel? What is your big thing at Nodo this year you're looking forward to?
I guess my big thing. Well, there's a couple.
Besides pizza and pool.
Yeah, pizza and pool. I mean,
Pool's and pizza.
I had pizza tonight. So I guess the thing for me is one, just being around in the campground and hanging out. That's super super cool, relaxing. You get to live homeless for a couple days. So that's always fun.
You get to see Bill, so that's plus.
I always look forward to seeing Bill.
See Bill.
I'll get my hug in, of course.
Yeah.
Or two.
Or yes. So that's real fun. The other thing too is like Saturday. I'll break it up by days.
Okay.
Friday camping, Saturday camping, cool. But Saturday just hanging out and talking to everybody. You just see everybody, like at Giuseppe's, for instance. Yeah. Everybody's passing through there. They're checking out the cars. The music's playing. Shirts are selling. That to me is really fun. And seeing some of those guys from Miami and North Florida and out of state, you get
kind of a middle spot where everything
it really is
draws in.
To me, that's really fun. And then of course Sunday morning, driving into the show at 4 a.m. Just kidding.
Putting chairs up.
I didn't say that.
Putting chairs up, marking your spot.
We have to talk. We're going to come back to that one.
I knew we would. Not that I've ever done that, but Sunday morning, getting parked and seeing everybody roll in. To me that's fun, and everybody getting situated throughout the day. When you're allowed to park, that is
right.
To me, that part is super fun. And then just kind of chilling all day long. And what was neat too is how many people that are not there in their own Volkswagen, they're just people off the street that just happen to be coming by. the word gets out that there's something going on around that lake, Port Orange. And I've talked to people there that one didn't own a car. They may have owned a Volkswagen back in the day, or they don't own a Volkswagen. They just happen to come through there. And, I talk to those types of people.
It's gotten very easy to get sponsorship around the show from businesses because they already know about it.
Right.
So this year, Friday night, it's at a Peruvian cafe. It's called Inca 360. It's a brand new place. It's actually where the Persimmon Hollow Brewery used to be. But they do really good food. Well, that guy contacted me. He's like, I heard my customers tell me I need to call you because you do an event. And I'm like, yes, you do need to call me.
Yeah.
So he was all on board even before we got there. It was so easy.
That's awesome.
We get so many locals. And actually, a funny thing is, one of the parks people that help us put on the show bought a Volkswagen. Not at the show, but she bought it a few weeks after. And she comes to the show. So she works for the city, used to be our contact there, and bought a Volkswagen.
Awesome.
So,
see?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that parking lot is awesome over there, too.
Yeah, that works out really well in that area.
Yeah, everyone, and people put their little chairs out there and just chill. It's just a great vibe. Go inside, get a drink, and get some food, come out. It's real laid back environment over there.
This year, Saturday is going to be the sneaky day for sure because Lonnie, who's from Volusia V-Dubs, and Robert Kennedy from Bully Brigade teamed up. And we got a real good venue, Tiki Docks. It's a newer restaurant. The building's been built about 4 years, but they've only been there about not even a year, maybe 6 months. But they were, again, all on board. Like, we went in there talking about the show, and they already knew about it. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I've been to Giuseppe's, man, on Saturday. He was, like, we didn't even have to talk to him, really. He's awesome. Like, whatever you guys want. So it's right on the Intercoastal. It's right where Bully Brigade was held the first few years we did it with Nodo. It's actually the same exact spot. So it's a beautiful venue. It's a great restaurant, not expensive. I mean, burgers are $12, which is kind of the going rate nowadays. So it's kind of how I gauge pricing. So I think it's going to be a real great spot. We have a spot for vending too on Saturday there. So we're going to combine Bully Brigade and then just a show and shine for Volkswagens. People that want to hang out, look at the buses, show their Volkswagen, go get something to eat. So I think that's going to be a real good addition to the event because it's such a great spot.
I think John Bowder said he was buying us a couple sandwiches.
Ooh, that's nice.
Is that what he said? Yeah,
he's always good for that.
He's
I think it was in one of his posts about Epcot, but we should be all right.
Was it? Yeah, he's a great guy. He's very generous.
Yeah, very.
Speaking how about a first timer coming to Nodo? What would you recommend to them? Is there something that you'd maybe recommend? Maybe check something out, or? So
I know it can be quite confusing if you've never been because it's a lot.
Bring something, tent, yeah.
It's a lot to digest. You got 3 days of events, and like I said before, don't try to do everything. Just try to pick a few things maybe every day and go to them. You could bring a bike for Sunday if you want to. But I would say come hit up the venues, head to the beach. The beach there is beautiful. It's especially if the weather's nice, it's smooth. You could drive on the beach here, which is kind of nice. I know a lot of beaches, they don't let you do that kind of stuff on an actual beach. But here you can drive on a beach. That's really nice. It's great photo ops. I would say that would be one of them. Hit up the restaurants. There's a lot of great local restaurants. And just relax, man. Have a good time. Yeah. Check out the Volkswagens. And if you want to go back to the campground and take a break, do that. You know what I mean? If you want to sleep in, do that. You got kids. Hit up a local park. Then go back to the show. You got plenty of time. You got 3 days to do stuff. So just make it your weekend. If you're a new person coming, make it your weekend. Do it how you want.
Yep.
And I would agree. There's a lot of great photo ops. Maybe you can put your sunglasses in the photo. Maybe take a picture of a coffee or something.
Sure.
I think
plenty
that
of coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's I have actually a second swap meet find, and it was at your show 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
I was looking for a parcel tray for the bamboo parcel tray for the Beetle. They're like $100 online or so.
Sure.
$15 at your show. Someone was selling one, and it came out of a '73 Beetle like mine.
Perfecto.
That's pretty cool.
Sometimes finds like that make the trip worth it. Like I drive home sometimes, I'm like, I'm so glad I went because I found that piece that I would
Yeah.
never find normally, and I found it.
Yeah.
It's great. So
Sure.
And they would just have,
that's
it was
awesome.
right at their car too. They weren't in the swap meet. So
That's cool. That
even better.
Yeah, I mean, you took it right out of that car.
I just walked it right up the street. I'm like, what is that? Parcel tray, $15. I just pulled the money out right there.
Took it out of your car and you put $15 on your seat. That's what I'm getting
It's
right
pretty
there.
cool how that
I'm
works
like,
out.
Yeah. So that worked out great. No, but that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be staying at Nova this year. So actually, Alfonso's first show was Nodo, your show last year. So we took it to the Bay Window show too. That was really cool. And then that was its first show, and that was with your engine at the time.
Oh yeah.
Daniel has an engine that he liked to use, a single port engine, 1600 single port. I had that in there, but we have another engine in it now, the dual port in there, which I got built by another gentleman around here. He's 81 years old. He's worked at Volkswagen.
Oh wow,
for a long time. But
it's actually the same. He built my engine in my bus.
Yeah, I built the engine in Daniel's bus too.
The old timers know their stuff, man. I will always listen to an old timer for tips and tricks. And you know what? Now I find myself slightly being the old timer, and people start taking my tips now. I'm like, wow, how the world has changed.
I have no other choice but to listen to your tips online. So that is true. I do listen to the old timers quite often. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's Eric, the gentleman that built our engines. He's like, it's got to be this part. It's got to be Molly. It's got to have certain bearings, this and that. They got to be steel back.
Sure.
And brands that were great back then. Some of the quality's not there anymore, and so it's hard for them to build an engine now. They're like, what is this junk that they're building? That they're making.
I just built a motor myself. I built a motor about 4 years ago for my bus.
Yep.
And then my Beetle, I just built a motor as well. Everything I have to double check everything. I even weigh everything, make sure the weights are right, tolerances are right, because I've seen horror stories and I built a couple motors myself. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. This seems machined wrong. You got to double check everything nowadays. I do agree, depending on what you pay, but sometimes you pay for a good part and you get something that's still not great.
Right.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. And like I got I forget what brand they were. Something line, steelback bearings, but they didn't fit right. There was a lip on it. Silverline bearings. That's what they were, and they wouldn't fit on here. So my builder was trying to put them together. They kept binding up. So we wind up finding some other like Brazilian steelback bearings, and those were fine. So
So speaking of fines, this is a question for both of you. What is there something this year that you're looking for to buy, that you're looking for a project or something like that?
Well, I have two things that are big on my list, and if anyone sees this and they have these parts, let me know. One is a 59 Gia steering wheel, the original wheel.
Okay.
They're super expensive and hard to find. Find one, and bumpers. Right now I'm in the hunt for bumpers for the car.
Okay.
Other than that, I got a pretty significant stash of parts I've been saving up for forever, and it's kind of grown. Now we have a shop that we rent, a space that we rent just because of the overflow. Because when you have a son that's into Volkswagens and you're heavily addicted yourself, and then you meet a girl that's a vintage Volvo collector, you're in some deep trouble, man. So I'm out of space, but we keep a lot of parts. Generally, I can find something, but I usually have it, but finding it is usually the hard part.
Speaking of her car, that was fun. I got to cruising that with you to dinner, so that was awesome. Yeah.
That's
my
cool.
daughter. By the way, my daughter got a vintage Volvo too now.
Awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
It's awesome. Yeah.
That's neat. It's a VOL.
So yeah, those two parts.
Yeah.
That's cool. Projects for me, parts. Not really looking for anything. I like Safari windows, so I'm working on the 61 SO23.
Nice.
That's a big project.
So that'd be something that you would.
What I want is
if you saw it.
Yeah, the old parcel tray, the metal parcel tray. I want one of those.
Yeah.
Mine's just rusted away.
There's a few styles of those too. There's a thick lip and a thin lip.
Yeah. So 61, I think, is the thick lip.
Yeah, those are hard to find in good shape.
Yeah, you're not taking mine.
Yeah. Damn, I was gonna go out there because we both have 61.
Yeah, leave $15 on my seat.
$15 on a seat. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Done.
tacos, fans, and lanterns work too. So,
Yeah.
There you go.
That's funny. Well, I tell you, man, this was great. I mean, we'll wrap it up, but I mean, thank you very much, for being part of the podcast, man. I really appreciate, you talking about, your history, Volkswagens you've had, the No-Do show. I mean, if not the best show in Florida, it is one of the best shows in Florida. I mean,
I appreciate that. We work hard on it,
Yeah. I can only imagine to do all these different events. It's definitely a definitely great time. And what is cool is, like Daniel said at Giuseppe's, when people are trying to get the shirts, there is a line of people trying to get those shirts, which is awesome too. Yeah, trying to put some money back in.
To be honest, if you could buy a shirt at the show, it does help us pay for the show.
Yep. Yep.
So I always tell people, if you're going to spend any money at all, please buy a shirt.
Yeah.
Even if you're buying it for someone else, because what it does is it helps us create money to pay for the show itself. Without T-shirt sales, we simply could not do it.
Right.
But one thing I wanted to say before we close it out is I just wanted to thank the volunteers that help it make it happen. Of course, my girlfriend, Bubba, who's been with me since day one on this crazy ride. Both my kids, for sure. Whether they wanted to or not, they're part of the team.
Yeah.
Cheapest labor ever, by the way.
Yeah.
And then the guys that are taking it on, Lonnie, Robert, Eric, who's been on again since day one. Just a few rough years for him, for sure, putting on events. And sometimes life gets in the way, and he still made it happen. So I appreciate that. Sponsors, Triangle, Gerson, who talked me into this mess. Ronnie, early on, that talked me into it. But without all these guys, it's the day of show people. Gary, like you had mentioned, Dan, Jeff, who does vending for us. But without those people, it wouldn't happen. I'm not the only guy who does it. Yes, I'm the main guy who started it, but it's really just coordinating and directing it and making it happen. But without those people, I just want to say thank you for helping us out all these years, and making it happen. It's definitely hard, thankless work sometimes. And then the other thing I want to say is for people coming, try us out, man. It's a very inexpensive event. I guarantee you're going to have a great time. It comes with a money back guarantee too. So,
you can't go wrong with that.
It's the only show with a money back guarantee.
That's the truth.
But I guarantee you have a good time. It's family friendly. So if you got kids, bring them, get them into the hobby. Right. There's plenty of Volkswagens to go around for all of us. And, as we grow, and your family grows, like my kids are into it as well. So, that's all part of it. So definitely we want to encourage a family friendly event. Right.
That's great. Yeah. It'd be nice to get the younger generation in once, the older generation leaves. I mean, what is there left? I mean, it's
right.
It's that's great. But yeah, well, thank you again, guys. No-Do show is definitely a show you got to check out when you're in Florida. At least buy a shirt. I mean, the shirts are really cool. The designs are just awesome. These are just a couple. These are last year's shirts we got on here.
Try to do something weird. Great. Yeah, why do the same thing? A bug and two palm trees. That's all you see at shows. I always try to mix it up. So
yeah, I would agree.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, hey, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Thank you guys for being part of this and sharing your story on the show. And check out No-Do show. If you're in Florida, this is a show you don't want to miss. Get a shirt. They're really cool. It's helping out the shows. All the volunteers, everyone puts a lot of work into the shows, and it really shows. And we're appreciative of that. And we thank all of you guys. And
bring your Volkswagen. Bring the
Volkswagens.
That's right.
You can go if you don't, but bring your Volkswagen.
You're allowed. Yes, 1 year. You can come 1 year without a Volkswagen.
That's it.
All right, man.
All right, Bill. Thank you, brother.
All right, we'll see you next week, man.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Yeah, man, I'll be there. Dan, you're volunteering? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll see if you got a wheelchair ready for me or something.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, Phil. See ya.
See ya.